and welcome back. This is your retired happy friend from Mississippi. I'm Carolyn, and I'm so glad you came back to visit with me today. And thank you for all of those who noticed that I didn't have a video to post Wednesday. It really made me happy that some of you noticed that I didn't have one out after I had told you I would and told you what it would be. But I was not really feeling good last week and hadn't felt good in a pretty good while, so I had 2 doctor's appointments. And I am feeling better today, but I've talked to several people who are just not feeling good and just feeling kind of tired and washed out. So we're all blaming it on the heat. We say that the heat is just draining the energy out of us. So hopefully we'll have some cooler weather come September, maybe. We've got a long, hot summer ahead of us. But anyway, thank you for your concern and for checking on me. So today I'm going to putting together the video on the basic simple pillowcase, and this is really designed for my granddaughters. I have 2 granddaughters who are 26 years old, and I've just gotten them both a new sewing machine to start learning how to sew on, learning the joy of sewing and creating and putting together fabrics and thread. So I've got them both a Janome New Home sewing machine, and this pillowcase is going to be a simple beginner practice project for them and for anybody else who wants something simple. It also makes terrific gifts. And I say in the video, which I'm going to repeat probably, but they make wonderful gifts, and you can make fall. And this is the joy of being able to create and make something ourselves, because you can't go to the store, you can't go to Home Goods or Walmart or anywhere and find what you can go to the fabric store and put together your own choices of fabric, your own print. I have gotten the little fall scarecrow and barn design. So you can't buy what you can go to the store and buy the fabric and create yourself. That's where the joy comes in doing it. So it's going to be basic. I have one design that would be a little bit simpler than this one if I make just a plain pillowcase out of 1 yard of fabric without the band that I show on this one. But this one's pretty basic. And if you're interested in the 1 yard pillowcase that is just all one piece, let me know and I'll show you that one too. But I'm going to start from the very basics. I'm not going to use my rotary cutter or my cutting mat on this. I'm going to start with what I would tell them to go to the fabric store and get their supplies: a yardstick, scissors, their fabric marker, and then the thread, and of course the fabric. So anyway, it's going to be basic, and I think it is just cute, 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 cute. I just love this little pattern. And I'm going to put it, this is the second one. The first one, I just had the hardest time editing and getting that video to work. Nothing worked right. And I was so frustrated, I just gave up and quit. So this is the second video, and everything worked a lot better on this one. So there you go. You know, Mama said there'd be days like that, and sure enough, along this retirement journey, there are days like that. But I go back to what I tell my children when they were growing up and they had tasks to do, or they had homework, or they had something they had to do. I said, do the thing that you dread the most first. Do the hardest project first, and then after that you'll have the hardest one out of the way and you won't dread having to go back and do that hard one. So that's what I did when I got ready to start again, which it took me about 4 or 5 days to just get ready to start again. But I went and washed my dishes, got my chores out of the way that I was dreading having to do, and then started on my pillowcase. So I hope you enjoy this. This is going to be a fun project. My thankful for today is I'm just thankful that I am feeling better. And on my wellness checkup, the doctor said everything looked good. My cholesterol was just a teeny tad high. I'm not on any prescription medications, which is really, really good. I'm very, very thankful for that. So I am thankful for a good checkup. So here we go. That's my thankful for today. My good word for today is love God and do good, and that will be in the next section. So there we go on that. And it is a hot day in Mississippi, and I'm going to take Maisie for a walk. I look outside my window and I see the trees are really beginning to blow, and I had seen on the radar a little while ago there's some lightning on the area, so we may be getting ready to have another little summer thunderstorm. So there we go. Tomorrow I have something to look forward to. Tomorrow will be Monday, and I hope to get this video up and ready to post, but I'm going to be meeting my grandson and granddaughter-in-law from Colorado who are in town, and they have 3 of my great-grandchildren with them that I'm going to get to go see tomorrow. 3 precious little boys who are all boy, and they are so active and full of energy that I'm going to get to go visit with them. So that's another thankful for today. That's a big, big thankful. That's probably the biggest thankful. So today we're going to make the bacon lettuce tomato sandwich and the pillowcase, and I'll show you how a bacon tomato sandwich is really very, very basic, but since I had the pillowcase project, which is a long project, I needed something simple to have as a cooking project. So that's what we have a lot of in the summertime. And then on Wednesday, God willing, and the old saying is, God willing and the creek don't rise. Wednesday, I'm going to show you my new favorite dessert this summer. So I'm going to give you a hint. It is similar to one of my favorite fall candies. So you can guess what that is. It's not candy, but the flavors are similar to it. And then Wednesday, instead of having a creating project, I'm going to show you my completed projects, or my completed WIPs, W-I-P-S, works in progress. So I'm going to show you some of my finished WIPs. And then I'll show you what my next what my still in progress projects are. So thank you so much for joining, and I appreciate all your comments. Lots and lots of really kind, polite, considerate, encouraging, supporting comments, and I thank you for every single one. I read all of them. I read all the responses, and be happy in today. This is the day that the Lord hath made, and we will rejoice and be glad in it. Share your smile with everyone you see, because they need it probably just as much as I've needed it this last few days. The retirement life, or life in general, is just a journey, and it has ups and it has downs. So we celebrate on the ups and we work through the downs. So let's get on with it. Thank you. So the word for today is Psalm 37, and it says, "Do not fret because of evildoers. Trust in the Lord and do good." So I heard a real good sermon on that one time. Trust in the Lord and do good. So that says a lot right there. So we'll get on with our pillowcase. Now these would make lovely gifts for the fall if you have somebody having a birthday or a bridal shower, or just for your own house to change your decor for the season. So you can make fall pillowcases, Christmas pillowcases. Christmas is coming up soon. And then we get on into January and back into spring and summer. So I like to have pillows different for different seasons, and it just changes up my house and my decor and what I'm looking at every day. You know, being retired, we're at home a whole lot more, and it's real important that we are happy and that our environment is conducive to being happy. So let's get started on. I'm going to cut out the pillowcase, eat lunch, and I'll show you the finished pillowcase at the end. So now it's lunchtime and trying to make the BLT sandwich. So this is some of my homemade bread. I still have that much left. So I'm going to slice off my sandwich slices. And in the oven, I have toasting the squash patties that I made for Monday. So that's going to be my side for my sandwiches, my little toasted squash patties. So I'm going to put my 2 pieces of bread in my toaster oven and toast my bread. Now the bread is toasted, just came out of the toaster oven, so it's toasted on both sides. Now I'm going to put mayonnaise, and I like mayonnaise on both sides of my bread. So I know some people like Miracle Whip, and you have different brands of mayonnaise, so whatever brand of mayonnaise you like, and be generous with it. Don't be skimpy on your mayonnaise. So I have mayonnaise on both sides, and one thing that I like on mine, which makes my tomato sandwich a little different, I like the Tony Chachery seasoning on it. So I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle that on the bottom side of my sandwich bread. And this is a big, beautiful tomato that I got at the produce stand, because my tomatoes aren't getting that big in my little backyard. This is one I picked this morning, so I have small tomatoes, but oh, they're so good. They make up for taste and for their size. Okay, I'm going to get a good big slice of tomato. Put that right in the middle of the bread. Next comes the bacon. Now when I get my bacon at the grocery store, I go ahead and cook my bacon right then. Well, not right at that moment, but I go ahead and cook my bacon before I put it up. And I spread a baking sheet with aluminum foil. I cut my bacon slices in half and put my bacon on the aluminum foil, then put another aluminum foil piece, not tied around it, but just lay across it to keep it from splattering on my oven. So that way, when I get ready for my bacon, it's already cooked and it's ready to eat. So there is my wonderful, delicious BLT. And to go along with it, I have my squash patties. I cooked those Monday, and those are going to be, instead of chips, I have a good healthy side dish. So I'm ready to go to the table to eat my BLT. Well, this is the second try on the pillowcase, the basic, plain, easy, simple pillowcase. So this is the one that I'm going to do the demonstration on for my 2 granddaughters who have just gotten their first sewing machine, and they are both 26 years old, and they need something simple to practice on to learn to use their new sewing machine. So this is the pillowcase. This is about as easy a project as I could come up with. And I think this fabric is just so, so cute. And I think it's something they will enjoy doing. So we're going to make the basic pillowcase. I put a contrasting band across the top. And just to give them some extra stitching and sewing practice, I'm doing this decorative stitch that's on their machine around the top so they can practice that. So what you will need for this little project is going to be 28 inches long for the body of the pillowcase, and it will be 40 inches wide. So all the fabric, most of it is 45 inches wide. So 28 inches long for the body, and then 10 inches for the band. You'll also need a pair of good scissors. These are good fabric scissors. I got these at Hobby Lobby when they had the scissors and notions on sale. So these are good Singer fabric scissors. Need a yardstick, a fabric marking pen, your thread to match your fabric, and then if you're going to do the contrast stitching around the band, you'll need an extra color for your contrast, your decorative stitch. And of course your sewing machine. So first of all, I'm going to take the fabric and I'm going to cut the selvage off of one side of the fabric. So I'm going to go ahead and cut all the selvage off down one side. And I'm going to cut just right along the edge, not into the fabric, but just along the edge of the selvage. And my fabric was cut really straight. When they cut it at Hobby Lobby, they do, depending on who you get, but usually they do a really good job of cutting it straight. Okay, so now we're going to need 40 inches wide. So with my yardstick, I'm going to go 36 plus I need 4 more inches. So I'm going to make a little cut right there so I know where my 4 inches is, and then I'm going to take the other end of the fabric and measure it, and that will be 36 plus 4. Now to get my 40-inch wide strip, I'm going to lay my fabric down and I'm going to put it on the wrong side so I can see the marking a little bit better, and take my yardstick and put my yardstick on one end on the cut and on the other end of the cut so I can get my straight line, and then take my marking pen and go mark my cutting line. I have the cutting line. So now with my scissors, and I'm going to do it this way so we will have a wider strip left than if I just folded it, did it on the fold, and I could cut it 20 inches wide if it's folded, and that would give me my 40 inches. But this way it will give me a little bit more fabric on the end. And I can use that to make quilted hearts for the fall. All right, so there's the body of the fabric, and now I need it 28 inches long. So this, she did a really good job cutting it 28 inches, so I'm not going to cut any off. When I went, I told her I needed 28 inches, and she did cut it right on 28 inches. Okay, so there is the top. Now I'm going to do the same thing with my band. And my pillowcase has a direction on it. The pattern has a direction. So when I put it together, I'm going to want to be sure that I have my little scarecrow and barns going up. So I'm going to take the band now and trim the selvage off of one side of the band. Okay. And this is cut straight, so I'm going to measure 36 plus 4. And there is my 4. And on this side of it, it's going to be 36 plus 4. And now I need it 10 inches long. So I got 12 inches on that, so I'm going to mark it at 10. So now I'm going to come to this side and put my yardstick on the edge where I'm going to cut it, and put my yardstick on that snip and on this one. And mark it down so I know where to cut. That's my cutting line. And now I need the 10-inch long, so this will be 10. And this time I'm going to fold it in half and go ahead and cut both sides at the same time. So this is going to be my edge I'm going to keep. So I'm going to keep that as my stitching edge and put my ruler down at, this is 10 inches right there, 10 inches right there. Okay, now I'm going to measure that. And this is how long I need it. So it's folded and I'm cutting the whole width at the same time. So I'm going to cut this. And that will give me a wide enough little strip that I can use these little strips. I'm always needing a solid blue for the quilted hearts. Okay, now we're going to take the band and the body and we're going to go lay it out. Get ready to put the two together. Now to put the pillowcase together, I'm going to use the burrito method that I did. If you saw the burrito pillowcase video, I'm going to put it together the same way, except I'm not going to have that contrast strip in the middle. So this was one of the pillowcases that I made with the burrito style. And it has the body, has the band, and a contrast band. So I'm not putting the contrast band on this one. I'm just going to put the binding edge and the body. So I'm going to lay the cuff, the edging of the pillowcase out straight. Take the body of the pillowcase fabric, going to make sure that my little scarecrows are going up straight, because when I get it put together I want it to look like that. So I'm going to put the right side of the body on the right side of the banding strip, and I'm going to go ahead and pin it along. So I'm going to get the corners together even and come on down and pin it right there. And pin this edge. And I like these long pins, and I like the ones with the ball on the top. So if you are just getting back into sewing or a beginner sewer, that's what I would recommend. All right, now we're going to take the body and fold it up. And we just want to keep folding it up, folding it up. Don't let it get up in that top seam And now we're going to take the band and fold the band up over the body and pin these edges together. So this is what we're going to sew together, and when we get through, the band will be all on the pillowcase, and all we will have to do will be sew the side seam and then put the decorative stitch edge around the edge if you decide you want to put. And I think it just makes it a little bit extra touch to have the extra in a contrasting color. So you can decide and make yours the way you want it, and that's the fun of the making of a project, is deciding and designing, putting the colors together, putting the fabrics together, and it just makes a fun, interesting, creative project. So I just love putting the combination, the fabrics together, working out the design. This is all pinned together. We're going to go to the machine. Now I have all three edges together, and this is going to be my contrast thread, so I'm going to set it to the side, and when I get through I'm going to make my decorative stitch with that. So I'm going to make sure I have all three of the edges together, and I'm going to take a 1/2 inch seam, and I do have my machine set on A, which is a straight stitch, and my length is going to be 3. So I'm going to back tack and sew all the way down the edges on a 1/2 inch seam. Now I'm to a pin, and I don't sew over my pins. So I take my pins out when I get up to it. Even though it's supposed to be able to sew over them, I've had too many needles break and have to stop and replace my needle, or worst case scenario, I don't have an extra needle and I have to stop my project and run to the store and get another needle. So I go right up to it, take my pin out, and then keep going. So I'm to the end. I'm going to come to the end, back tack, and take it out. And I always put my threads to the back if you're a beginner stitcher, or if you're one of my granddaughters watching on your new machine. Always make sure the top, the thread holder, is in the upper position. Make sure your needle is in the upper position, because learning from experience, too many times I've stopped with my needle down. I start sewing, and as soon as the thread carrier gets in the upper position, it unthreads my needle. I have to stop and rethread my needle. So just a word from the wise. So now the band is put together, and if you remember or watch on the burrito pillowcase, we're going to reach inside, and we're going to get this body piece, the big piece of fabric, and we're going to pull it out of the band. So just like that, we're going to pull this fabric out. And this is really a neat way to have your top band already put on your pillowcase. So there we go. The band is on. I'm going to straighten everything out. Now we want to go to the ironing board and press all the seams up and get that pressed out flat. Now at the ironing board, we're just going to pull the fabric, make sure it's all flat, take the hot iron. Mine has steam in it, and I like to press it down with steam. It just helps to set it and helps to iron it a little bit better. So I have I have to use the distilled water I get at the grocery store in my iron so the mineral deposits don't build up in it. So I know sometimes the irons will say you can use tap water, but just over years of experience I have found it does cause a mineral buildup on your iron. So there we go. Okay. Now, isn't that just the cutest thing you have ever seen? I mean, I just love this print. And that's one reason I don't mind making two. I made the first one and had so much trouble editing that video. It was just like nothing was going right. So I just started all over. This is my second one, and I wanted two to go on my bed anyway, so now this is my second pillowcase. Now I'm going to put, since this one is going to be a learning, and I want my granddaughters to go ahead and make another pillowcase pretty soon, and I want this to be an easy project for them to accomplish. So the original burrito pattern that we made called for French seams. So on this one, I'm not going to do the French seams. I'm going to do the straight seam, come back and do a zigzag stitch over it, and then trim down the seam. So to do that, we're going up to the top. We want to get the band edges together. Make sure these seams match. And then we're going to pin that into place. Now this is not quite even, so I'm going to pin it together, come back with my scissors, and I'm going to trim this so the band edge is even with the pillowcase. So I'm going to go all the way down, get the corner of the pillowcase, and I'm going to pin it together next. So get my corners together. Now I'm going to hold the corner and hold the band and get the edges straight and lay it down, and then pin everything in place to keep the edges stabilized so they won't be shifting as I try to sew. And I hope you enjoy this project. You can make fall pillowcases for your friends, families, neighbors. You can make Christmas is coming up. You can make a decorative set of pillowcases. It's just fun to be able to change our pillowcases. And when I go to Hobby Lobby, which is about the only place I have to get my fabric now, I always feel the fabric and make sure it's going to be a smooth fabric that I want to be able to put my face on, and that's not going to be rough, but a real nice, fine textured, fine surface fabric. Okay, now I have all of the sides and the bottom pinned together. So we'll come back up to the band, take my scissors, and I'm going to cut that band so it's going to be even with the body of the pillowcase. So there we go. Pin that together. Now come back and make sure that hasn't shifted, and pin this edge together. And now it's time to go to the sewing machine again. And I am going to take a 1/2 inch seam down this. I still have my machine set on a straight stitch on a 3 length. My top edges are together, my side seams are together and even, and the seam on the band is together and even. So we're going to take a 1/2 inch seam. I want to backtack. My pins out and go all the way down. And just keep shifting your fabric up as you sew so it won't be dragging and pulling on your seam. And you want to keep your seams straight. Now I'm to the corner. I'm a 1/2 inch from the corner, so I'm going to leave my needle in the fabric, raise my presser foot, and turn the fabric so I can go down. This will be the bottom of the pillowcase. And I am going to back tack it just to reinforce that corner. And go down 1/2 inch all the way to the end. I'm to the end of the pillowcase, so now I'm going to raise my needle, raise the thread carrier, lift the presser foot, and pull the fabric out. I'm going to cut it close to the end, make sure my thread is going under the presser foot and going to the back. I'm going to go to the zigzag stitch, going to make it on C, and I'm going to make it wide, and I'm going to put the stitch length between 1 and 2. Now we'll go back up to the top edge of the pillowcase. So now we want to make sure the thread is going to the back, and I'm going to go put my fabric under. I want my zigzag to go to the seam and then over, and to the seam and over. It won't go all the way to the edge of the fabric, but I don't want it to. Now I'm going to go all the way down. That noise you heard that was going over the seam of the band on the pillowcase. It's a little bit thicker there. And I didn't slow down, but for if you're a beginner stitcher, slow down going over those thick seams just in case your needle has a problem. Okay, now can you see this zigzag is going from the seam out, and that's going to make a nice edge. Now my thread just popped, and I don't know why. I think I might have been zigzagging too fast going down the seam. So I had to stop, take my fabric out, and pull the thread up, make sure my thread carrier was in the top position, and then raise my needle and rethread it. So I've rethreaded it, have my thread under my presser foot, going to the back, and I'm ready to start again. Things like that happen, so sometimes it's not anything really you're doing right or wrong, it just happens in sewing. But don't get discouraged or give up and quit. Now I'm coming to the corner, and I'm going to slow down and do my zigzag. I don't want a real bulky corner, so I'm going to leave my needle in the fabric, lift my presser foot, turn, and now I'm going to put my needle down on the seam. So I raised my needle after I turned it, and now I'm putting my needle back down in the seam with my needle in the, I don't know, the zig or the zag position, but so the next stitch will go away from the seam. Okay. That will just help keep it from being quite so bulky in the corner. I'm down to the corner on the edge. I'm going to back tack 1 stitch, go forward, raise my needle, raise the thread carrier, and pull the fabric out. Now I'm going to take my fabric scissors and go back, and I want to trim the corner off, being careful not to clip my stitching. Now I want to take the fabric, and I'm going to trim the seam right as close to the zigzag as I can get it. I had rather leave a little bit more fabric than to clip my stitching. So I'm going to go all the way across the end and all the way up the side. When I get to this corner, this is where I made my corner. I turned and I'm going to trim that excess fabric out, okay? And I'll meet you back at the top. Now my seam is trimmed all the way up to the top and it looks really nice. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my pillowcase and I'm going to thread my contrast thread in to my sewing side. So this is my decorative stitch thread, so I'm going to go ahead and put that on my machine. And I am going to go ahead and press my pillowcase after I get it turned. And right now, if you don't do a decorative stitch, you're finished. Your pillowcase is all done. You can turn it and press it and it's all finished. But I am going to do a decorative stitch just because I want the extra practice with my granddaughters on using their machine. I want them to find out how fun it is to do decorative stitches on it. So here we go. Now I'm ready to do my decorative stitch, and on my Janome New Home it is an E setting and on the 1 stitch length. So I took the extra arm off of my machine so I can put the pillowcase right up under it, and I'm going to start at the seam and I'm going to put the edge of my presser foot along the edge of the banding, and that's going to be my distance. So I'm going to make sure I have my thread to the back, the top thread under the presser foot, and I have my decorative thread in, so now I'm ready to add the decorative touch on it. So I've made it all the way around. I'm through. When I got to the end, I back tacked 2 stitches. I didn't back tack when I started because the end stitches are going to come up over the beginning stitches. So I did back tack when I got to the end. So there we go. In about an hour and a half, probably 2 hours max, you have a beautiful, unique, one-of-a-kind, individual pillowcase. So I love it. I think it is just so adorable. I'm going to really enjoy having this on my bed as soon as it gets fall, probably about middle or end of August, September. But I just love this little pattern. It's so cute and happy. Now, one thing I will tell you about starting on this, if you're going to do the decorative stitches, check your bobbin. Make sure you have enough bobbin thread. And I did my bobbin thread in my regular stitching color. I did not put my decorative color in my bobbin. So I left it in the white, and then my decorative, my contrast thread, is on the top. So be sure you have enough thread in your bobbin to do all the way around, because if you have to stop and refill your bobbin, it's going to be very hard to pick up where you left off and make your pattern match. So be sure your bobbin is full. Make sure you have enough of your contrast thread. If you're going to make a pair of pillowcases, make sure you have enough for 2 pillowcases, because this really does take a lot more thread on the bobbin and on the top. So that's just one thing to think about and consider. And I hope you enjoy this. Let me know in the comments how many you make and what you're going to make them for. and what kind of fabric. And if you decide to make the band and the pillowcase the same color without the decorative colors, it goes, you would need the same amount of fabric. Now there is a simpler way just to make, you can make a pillowcase out of 1 yard of fabric if you don't want a band of a different color. So let me know in the comments if you want to make a pillowcase that way, and I can show you how I made some. I got at Walmart. I wanted the fabric to be different, but I didn't need it to be like this, where I have the band one color and the pillowcase another color. So it's an even simpler pillowcase than this one is. So just let me know. The most complicated one is the burrito, and I'll put which video that was that I made the burrito, the original burrito pillowcase. But I hope you enjoy that.